Russian MilBloggers and even state media are in open rebellion against the Kremlin, calling out Russia's lies about casualty numbers and the lack of progress on the front line. Just how did even the most staunch Putin supporters turn on him? And is it showing up in Russia's recruitment numbers? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about this wild story.
You've seen me break down combat footage from Ukraine, analyze frontline tactics, and show what real war looks like. The last few years have shown everyone that chaos can erupt anytime, anywhere. So it's always good to prepare for even the worst. The same goes for your finances. The costs of war, inflation, and economic instability are hitting harder than ever. That's why I want to tell you about American Hartford Gold. They specialize in helping you protect what you've earned with something solid, tangible, physical gold and silver. Whether you want it delivered straight to your door or stored in a tax-advantaged gold IRA account, they make it easy and secure. American Hartford Gold has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and thousands of 5-star reviews. The team knows what they're doing and they'll guide you every step of the way. And right now, if you let them know I sent you, you could get up to $15,000 in free silver. Call 866-449-5757 or text COMBAT to 65532 or just click the link in the description.
Now, some of the quotes here that we see are really a level of anti-Kremlin vitriol coming from MilBloggers and even some state-affiliated media that I have not seen in at least 2 years. Really, since Prigozhin was killed and Igor Girkin was put in jail, have we seen this level of truth to power and criticism of the Kremlin. Bear in mind, guys, in Russia, this is not like a TikTok going viral, right? Because when you criticize the Kremlin, and specifically when you criticize the special military operation in Russia, this is a criminal offense and can result in jail time of years. And so the fact that we're seeing some of these quotes is pretty absurd. And so I want to show you guys, for example, right now, obviously, J.D. Vance and Donald Trump have both said that Russia has to accept reality, that they're killing lots of their people and have very little to show for it. But here's what I want you guys to see. The one Russian propagandist, Tatiana Montan, said that Russia lacks manpower for any kind of offensive operations, warning that Vladimir Putin may be forced to announce a new wave of mobilization, quote, if there's no major breakthrough in this spring-autumn campaign, right? She continues, in the first half of September, the pace of the offensive has slowed significantly. They may have committed their last reserves. This was literally a quote from her last week. Again, saying that Vladimir Putin is going to have to announce a wave of mobilization. You might recall that at the outset of the war, the initial wave of mobilization, think conscription in Russia, because Russia has a limited mandatory military service for males, and technically every male who's completed their military service is a member of the reserves. So mobilizing the reserves means drafting every single Russian male. And this was unbelievably unpopular. This caused a massive fleeing of Russian really the Russian public in general, but including a lot of key educated working age men in Russia. And that is a huge problem for Vladimir Putin, who already needs these men to sustain the Russian economy, right? He needed them in 2022. That's why he rolled back his mobilization, and he needs them even worse today. So if a mobilization was unpopular 3 years ago, it's going to be even less so today. So the fact that you're seeing MilBloggers even say these things is absolutely absurd. Now get this, Dmitry Rogozin, a Russian senator representing the occupied Zaporizhzhia region, acknowledged in a September 21st email that the front line had reached a, quote, deadlock, and that Moscow was incapable of achieving significant advances. He said, quote, it's impossible to advance, there's a deadlock at the front, right? A Russian, another occupied government official, Pavel Gubarev, right, said that Russian forces are often on the offensive while Ukraine defends, leading to, quote, incomparably heavy losses. Again, saying things like acknowledging the infliction of massive losses, a total failure of Russian offensive operations. These are things that are unthinkable. Were unthinkable even as little as 6 months ago. He continued, in reality, the current situation is already tantamount to defeat for us. This is preposterous. Russia does not have the capability to complete the special military operation with the achievement of set goals and victory this is insane, under the colonial system of the current government. Do you know how unbelievable that is? This is saying something like that in Russia will get you at a minimum jail time, right? You'll probably get Alexei Navalny. I mean, to call the current system of government, right, basically acknowledging that Russia has occupied Ukraine and is a military occupation authority, saying that Russia is in effect already defeated because it's bogged down in eastern Ukraine, unable to advance without massive casualties, and that the special military operation is literally in a state of failure. This is so illegal in Russia to say these things, and to have it coming from not just a Russian veteran of the war itself, but a senior MilBlogger and someone strongly associated with the occupation government is wild, right? I mean, you've got to see some of these other things. Look, this is a Russian state TV channel during the political talk show Meeting Place. One guest that on, again, an official government channel. This is like someone on Fox News being like, Donald Trump is failing the country. It's unthinkable, right? He said, quote, with the outbreak of hostilities, the Ukrainian army went up to 800,000 people, and then it increased again to nearly 100,000 people a year. But they say, thus, it is impossible, he's referring to the government figure of 2 million losses, because in that case, the Ukrainian army would simply not exist. The host asked him, so you mean the Russian Ministry of Defense is lying? The guest continued, not only ours, he replied. It's a huge mistake to underestimate the Ukrainian army. Whoa. Right? Now, of course, a Russian military expert, when asked to weigh in on this, said that these propagandists will speak as long as they are allowed to. If they tell the truth and it causes harm, Russian authorities will take action against them. But here's the thing. The problem is the damage in some ways is already done. And it's almost like if you're a MilBlogger, right, this is what we see even in sort of pro-administration bloggers and podcasters and vloggers and in here in the US, where they can try to massage reality a little bit, right? Cherry picking facts, removing context in order to sort of shape a narrative, right? But at some point, you can't just brazenly lie to people, right? It's just like some of the channels that say, oh, Ukraine is always winning. Ukraine just wins and wins and wins. And it's like, well, no, you can't comport a channel, right? No one's going to tune into a channel that says Ukraine's winning when they've been winning for 4 years, right? You, as an audience, it's insulting to your intelligence. And so what these, so at some point, even here in the US, vloggers have to comport reality against their own sort of willingness to lie to the government. And so they sit there and go, listen, at some point, I can't pretend like the government isn't, you know, giving Israel a pass to do things to the Palestinians that are war crimes, right? Or, hey, we can't pretend like that $400 million Qatari jet wasn't a bribe, right? Like you have to confront reality at some point, even if you are in effect a propagandist. And the fact that we're seeing these MilBloggers say, listen, I care about my audience too much to continue to like, I can't spin this to them. They're going to know I'm lying. You can't pretend like the Russian invasion of Ukraine has resulted in just a few tens of thousands of casualties. That's the official government number right now, right? You're going to say, listen, everyone in Russia knows someone who's been killed in this. It's that no one believes that it's just a mere 10,000 or 20,000 people. And so the fact that these MilBloggers are at a point where they're like, we don't even care if we go to jail. That is a wild level of rebellion. I don't know what else to call it, right? And we're seeing it, right? Look, check this out. So Russia apparently is struggling to meet its mobilization targets in occupied Crimea. And remember, mobilization targets, they're referring to a call-up of Russian males for conscription for mandatory military service. Now, conscripts cannot serve in the war in Ukraine. They're only allowed to literally defend territorial Russia. But for the Russian government, what they often do is recruit these conscripts. They will put them through their mandatory training. And as their training begins to wrap up, right, and they are prepared to return to civilian life, Russian recruiters will go in and say, hey, you need to sign this contract. And they will actually coerce, they will pressure, they will do all sorts of stuff to get these young conscripts to sign the contracts. And I'm sure the recruiters know, right? If you're somebody who's like, hey, I got a spot at college, I'm just going to finish my training as a tank mechanic, and then I'm going to go start at Moscow Technical College. Like, those people probably aren't getting pressured. They're probably like looking for, again, in the case of Crimea, ethnic Tartars, ethnic minorities, linguistic minorities, people who have very few, virtually no job prospects, illiterate, semi-literate, individuals who are exploitable. And that's who's probably getting pressured into signing these volunteer contracts where they're then sent to Ukraine. So you can assume that, I don't know, I'd guess and say 10, 15, maybe 20% of conscripts are going to end up in Ukraine after signing these high pressure contracts. So it's very important for Vladimir Putin to make sure that every year lots of new conscripts sign up and complete their training. So it's a huge problem when you're seeing the mobilization target for Crimea. They said they've identified 1,600 people, young men, who need to be mobilized. And of those, only about 900 have actually shown up. Only 60% of the actual target, right? Now, the highest rates of showing up, the highest rates of attendance are predictably in the poorest regions where, well, even drawing a paycheck for a couple of months as a conscript is actually pretty valuable and useful to to these families. But even in the best performing districts, only about 75% of conscripts show up. But the fact is that you're seeing really Crimea in some of the lowest, as one of the lowest success rates of conscription, right? Of course, you've got other districts, particularly impoverished districts, where even smaller numbers of soldiers due to show up for their mandatory military service simply bail, right? Now, this number alone, in order to catch up with Russia's target, they would have to basically have to double the rate of conscription and recruitment. And it's, I think, reflective. All of these numbers are really bad. For context, in 2024, they said that actually Crimea hit 104% of its target for conscription. So we're talking about literally slicing the total number of real conscripts in half. And the fact that this is widespread across dozens of districts where, again, you're looking at up to 40% of Russian men who should be mobilized actually simply just bail is, I think, a sign of the effectiveness of the, reality to penetrate the Russian propaganda bubble, right? I mean, imagine if you are in a Russian village. All right, let's see if we can find it. If we can find the killed. So let's see. There was a viral picture going around Reddit that actually showed. Here we go. So this is this is even from 2 years ago, right? But this is a cemetery in a Russian village. This is all of the village's war dead in the war in Afghanistan. You can see the small village lost one person in Russia's war in Afghanistan, 3 people in the 2 rounds of devastating wars in Chechnya. And then you can see that just in the first 2 years of war in Ukraine, you're seeing a huge increase in the number of dead. But and you can imagine that this was during the lighter, when Russia was incurring fewer losses. So you're looking at now, losses, you're probably talking about 3 times this number. And what makes this really kind of absurd is that every one of these conscripts has to like see these things, right? Every Russian mobilized man, particularly again, those guys from the poor villages that are already targets for the Russian recruitment machine, they're seeing these memorials, they're seeing these graveyards, and they're saying, and I mean, how would you feel going to a recruitment office? Even if the Russian military pinky promised you guys you were not going to serve in Ukraine, you're going to sit there and go, listen, I have uncles, I have cousins, I have kids I went to school with whose dads were killed in Ukraine, and we're not talking about one or two, we're talking about dozens. You're going to avoid military service at all costs. As we always say on this channel, at some point, no matter how much the Russian government offers to pay these recruits, you're going to sit there at some point and say, listen, there is no amount of money that can get me to sign this contract, right? You're like, listen, I want to watch my kids grow up. I'm not here to die, not for 1 million rubles, not for 10 million rubles, not for 1 billion rubles. I just won't do it. And Russia, again, after 4 years of war, is finding that a lot of people say, yeah, I'm in that number. Again, the fact that 40% of these Russian recruits are saying, even if though Russian law guarantees I won't be sent to Ukraine, I still am going to shirk and avoid military conscription service. Completely wild, wild stuff.